Friends, a very warm welcome back from the summer break. We have spent past season bringing ourselves closer to each name in the Vishnu Sahasranama and how it inspires us and gives us a humanistic direction. A direction to progress economically, socially, and spiritually, or Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Let us begin this season by getting ourselves a reintroduction to Vishnu Sahasranama and further commit ourselves to gain all the goodness that is promised to the practitioners of Vishnu Sahasranama. What orientation can we commit ourselves to on the promise it holds? One of the testimonials provided in our recitation is the benefit of Kim Japan Muchyate Jantur Janma Samsara Bandhanat, or those practitioners meditating upon the Lord will attain freedom from the bondage of samsara. Samsara is the society or the realm of relativity in which we each attain different degree of accomplishment in the mentioned four Purusharthas of Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Now, each of us having gained that, we aspire for a higher degree of satisfaction or fulfillment, or the word santosha. Now, as we seek this santosha, we know that the society sends us a share of trouble too. But in most times, these troubles come in such abundance that we have come to accept that in the society it's majority of suffering and less of comfort and happiness. These troubles are what we have heard often in our households as samsara tapatraya. I am stuck in a lot of tapatrayas, right? So what is this tapatraya? Tapa means heat or the energies or the pressure that comes from certain sources, and traya is the three. So tapa traya. So tapa is the heat or talebisi, or head is boiling, or the types that put us under the pressure. Where is this heat coming from? It's coming from three sources is what uh, is being told. And what are those three sources? One is adhyatmika, caused by one's own body and mind, right? So we always have heard some of the folks' humor saying, somehow I have the knack of getting into trouble, right? So these are actions we perform and we get into trouble. You're supposed to send a report at a certain time in the week, you don't, and you are questioned by your boss. So our own actions form. Then adhyatmika is that caused by one's own body and mind. And next is adhibhautika. This is the three source of trouble or heat where it comes from. Adhibhautika is suffering caused by other beings, which is living or non-living, anything outside of yourself, right? So it's like two, you are five of your friends and you leave one person behind and go. I remember me and Ganesh were two colleagues in which the company underwent a reorg. We were the only two we who were left with a research lab, and the rest were regrouped into another business division. And he was telling me, I felt like the whole of my family went on a trip, leaving me behind, is the comment he had made, right? So which is caused, it is not an action he took, it was action that something else happened, and the way that action for him was, he was the only one who was ignored among many. Then the third one is Adi Daivika, which is caused by divine or supernatural forces. Right? There is a storm, there is a hurricane, and the equivalent, or there is famine. There's no food at all. Right? We've heard of those stories too. So these are three sources of heat that comes to trouble you, keep you awake in the night, and the equivalent, which means we each have a store of happiness, right? We had to call this the Anandamaya. We each have a store of happiness, and the heat from the above three sources come and evaporate this happiness in us, leaving us with a less of that santosha that we were aspiring, the fulfillment we are aspiring for. So we recognized earlier that the life itself, we said, is the unfoldment and development of a being under circumstances tending to press it down. So, if the Tapatriya is always coming to boil us, what could we be doing? We could build in us higher capacity and lift ourselves by ourselves. A capacity to not just face these heat but digest them as well. A capacity to not just face those heat but digest them as well. So please allow me to articulate this with a story. In my growing years, there was a movie by name Banker Margaya. Margaya is a private lender. Now, such a one person bank will make money so long as there are people who are taking credit and are also able to periodically service the interest on those borrowings. However, if all the creditors were to default, he will collapse, or what we call as the bank run is what he would have had. Now, if the central bank, if there was a central bank that was to stand behind this single banker and protect this banker from the bank run that he is facing, he will survive and perform and thrive. Now, as we too battle through this suppression of the samsara tapatraya, right, it's pressing you down, we too should anchor ourselves into this central bank, the superpower of Lord Vishnu. While doing so, we, with an open heart, let's rally ourselves onto a path where the goal is not whether there is more pain or more pleasure. The goal is not whether there is more pain or more pleasure. We should accept both pain and pleasure. But by anchoring to that bigger being, the central bank, we also begin to allow for our inner capacity to grow. A capacity to not just face those heat, but digest them as well. So, we will resolve upon ourselves through the practice of this season to be bestowed with this higher capacity so that we can overcome the samsara tapatraya, the three problem sources, and not just overcome but grow big enough that we will eventually digest them as well. With that, friends, keeping that as our direction of our prayers, we will now begin our prayers.